Hi, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Jairam Rajaram, managing partner of Brill. Today, I have with me two very, very dear friends and rock star digital marketing couple. So, please welcome Khushboo Tulsiani and Sunny Tulsiani.
Hey,
Hi,
Jay.
guys.
Hi,
Hey,
Jay.
man. Thanks for that extremely generous introduction.
No, you guys are. I mean, you're entrepreneurs, and then I want to find out what I should be doing now with my brand and my brand strategy online. So let's start with that, guys. See, there are a lot of people who are calling me from the startup world, and generally business owners I've been chatting with. They're wondering whether they should go all black with the marketing spends, or they should be doing something online.
I think, I think it's a very subjective sort of question because it depends on the industry that you're coming at this from. I mean, we've sort of all, with whatever's happened, we've all seen sort of disruption in consumer behavior right now. So depending on what industry you are and where your consumer is and who your consumer is, you might have to react accordingly. I mean, purely from a B2C point of view, and if I understand a lot of the businesses that are coming to you with certain questions would be the B2C businesses. So if I have to take that into account, again, the thing that we have to keep in mind is it depends from the sector to sector that you're in. What we have seen, because of, COVID in the last couple of weeks, there has been, almost an abrupt change in consumer behavior and lifestyle, right? So, I mean, we're all locked up in our houses. There are barely any footfalls outside. Most of us are working from home. Either we are glued to our TV screens or either our cell phones or our iPads or any digital screen for entertainment or for news. And I think everybody's sort of top concern right now is, health and safety, barring a few who, I guess, still prioritize on stocking up the alcohol. But everybody's concerned about health and safety and how things are going to start returning to normalcy. And while we're all sort of sitting at home, we're either watching news or we're watching entertainment shows or we're playing games. Pretty much everybody seems to be turning into a master chef these days.
Yeah.
If you can't go a single day without a update with what this new sort of dish that they've cooked up. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great. People are finally spending some quality time at home, indulging in activities that they earlier didn't have time for, and spending time with their loved ones. And some of us have gotten obsessed with cleanliness in the house. And video chats have become sort of like a schedule.
So I think cleaning products and stuff like that can definitely keep advertising on
that's essentially what I'm getting at. I mean, the current restricted consumer sort of behavior in life that if you're a brand that finds a relevant role to play in this current scenario, in this current life of a consumer that is sort of constrained, then I definitely think you should be looking at how you can make your consumer's life a little easier, better, healthier, or safer. I mean, I know we're working with a couple of brands. I consult with and a food brand, the Health Factory, where we are looking at solutions where we are now delivering no contact deliveries to home. So we're looking at payment gateways so that consumers don't have to get out, take the risk, and they get their product delivered to their doorstep. Similarly, certain other brands that we've seen, niche brands in our cities, from fresh produce and vegetables, being able to sort of come up with solutions, keeping the consumer in mind and getting their products to the consumer. And I think those are the kind of steps that they're looking at taking. And I think those are the things a lot of the brands should be looking at in how can we bring value to our consumers' life in this current sort of restricted, scenario. And I think for a brand that, perhaps finds themselves not playing an important role in today's, in today's time, which is, perhaps the last couple of weeks and the weeks perhaps that are going to follow, it would be prudent to perhaps stay back, hold back. Staying black may not be the answer, but communicate with your consumers where you find relevance to communicate with them. If you are taking steps to ensure how you are changing or upgrading your businesses or your practices or your backends to ensure health safety, then those would be the points that you could get in touch with your consumer to keep them in the know-how of what you are planning for when things return to a better state for that business to come back and service their consumers. So I think it's very subjective, and I think the starting point would be to look at and be honest about who your consumer is and what are they going through in their day to day, and how can you be relevant, if at all, and if so, then you go out there and you sort of communicate or find ways to interact with them.
Right. So Khushboo, now let me ask you, if I come to you with my brand, for example, okay, we are in the non-essential category.
Right.
Okay, we do stationery products, baby and children's products. So we are pretty much a consumer brand, which is not relevant
Right.
at this point during the COVID time, because everyone is, only looking at essentials, health and hygiene, food products, etc. So what would you recommend for a brand like Brill?
So it depends. See, like Sani was saying, you define relevance, right? I do not think so. Yes, while a brand like yours does not come into the essential category, is it relevant today or not? Let's take your own example, right? You're locked down in your house with your 2 kids.
Yeah.
Today, kids are not used to staying in the house for such prolonged period. Even if it is an extended holiday, beyond a certain point, they're getting bored. So a brand like yours, to be very specific, could do something interesting in terms of reaching out to their consumers, because today families with kids are looking at ways to keep their kids entertained and engage and spend some quality time again with the kids. One of the ways that comes top of mind is you could look at creating some DIY videos with the stationaries, right? And put it out there on your social media channels or send it out as WhatsApp blasts. So you are
very interesting point, Boo. This is something that we started doing with a video contest, where kids start recording videos and stuff like that, and that's done pretty well. So fantastic that you mentioned that very point.
Yeah. So yeah, like we handle one of the stationery brands called Faber-Castell. It's a German stationery brand. We handle the India mandates for them, right? This particular stage, what they globally decided is how we could refurbish some of their videos to make it relevant to the audiences, right? So we picked out all the DIY videos that we created over the years, and now we're refurbishing them to give parents something to engage their kids with, and it's working out really well. I mean, it's interesting that they're seeing actually a good spike in their organic reach on social media channels. So, like I said, for your specific brand, there are various ways you can continue to be relevant without pushing your product out.
Right.
It's about being sensitive while being relevant.
Absolutely. So which are your favorite platforms on social media, and what works best for you for B2C brands and for B2B brands? Both of you could answer this, one at a time.
So I don't think I have a favorite. I think my favorite keeps changing as per the brand requirements, right? But just to point out some of the things that Sani was mentioning, right? We are seeing a huge shift already in the customer behavior, which naturally leads to a different kind of a media mix, right? We're seeing a decline in commuting, public transit, footfalls and retail outlets, bars and restaurants in the weeks and months to come. Then we're seeing a downfall in the leisure activities outside of home. So you will see lesser and lesser spends on out of home and print media. But in the same breath, I will say there's an increased time spent on social media channels, on messengers, on telegram.
So which is your favorite social media channel, for example? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it only LinkedIn for B2B? So, how would you get that mix right?
Again, to me, I don't think one size fits all. It depends again where and what is it that the brand wants to communicate, honestly. So, for example, I think what we're going to be seeing is at this moment, I believe, and Sunny, you can add
I guess I agree with you completely. Neither do I have any sort of favorite platform. I think what's important always, and it's always been important as a marketer or as an advertiser, while you might maybe perhaps have a preference for it for some time, but channels that are used for communication or delivery keep changing and keep evolving, and different businesses will constantly have different needs. So I think it's more important to match your business requirements and needs to the right platforms and channels that help you deliver that objective, versus sort of being tied down to personal biases or favorites. I mean, Khushboo personally, I know, likes Instagram as a platform that she likes to be on,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily become the right channel for a particular brand.
So sometimes the personal bias does cloud our, thinking, and we feel since we are on it, that's probably the best.
Sure.
Sometimes
No,
it's
I
not.
mean, I think for both of us, I think I can speak, on both our behalves, that we've never sort of had that as an approach. Every brand has a different challenge, a different objective. So you have to come at it from what are their requirements, what are their challenges, and more importantly, where are their consumers,
Correct.
and what is the channel that is best suited, therefore, to reach them and deliver the objective that they've set out. So
just in terms of the digital channel choices today, if you have to ask me to name a few, I think we're going to see like a rise in e-commerce advertising for sure. We
Right.
definitely are going to see, again, a significant growth on social media channels now, be it Facebook or be it Instagram. And that's going to be more data driven rather than personal biases of what platforms we are on, basis what platform the brand's consumer is on, right? I think apart from the channels, what is emerging as a pattern right now is a lot of FMCG and other consumer brands are actually gearing towards a well-optimized integration for first and third-party deliveries, right? So they are actually accelerating their efforts into making a robust UI UX, right? Because that's not going to be crucial only for now, but it's going to be crucial for times to come as well. Apart from that, I think one of the most interesting channels, I think at this time for a lot of, again, FMCG, F&B brands would be influencer marketing. So influencer outreach programs. How interestingly, creatively can one use the influencers? Because today, given that ad production for the time being has been put on hold, influencers have the capacity to create content from the comfort of their homes. And then they have this massive reach on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, which we can tap into their audiences through their content, right?
Very interesting. Yeah.
So there are various brands that I know of are using and leveraging these influencers, not only in terms of their content and their audiences, but in terms of even driving consideration and sales. So there are many innovative things that are emerging. But again, like I'll maintain, it's not one thing that will fit for everyone else.
I guess the only caveat there would be that whatever platform that you look at has an individual role that it plays in a consumer's life. You don't use Instagram the way you use LinkedIn.
Correct.
And therefore, why you use that platform, just because your audience might be present across these platforms doesn't necessarily mean you advertise across the platforms. You use the platforms for what they're meant to do. And then sort of, so essentially while making choices, you have to look at which platforms are relevant for your consumer. And more importantly, what role does that platform play in that consumer's life to then therefore decide.
So there was an interesting point there, Sunny. So what exactly are these platforms meant to do in consumers' lives? Could you just elaborate on that? For example, in Instagram, why is a person on Instagram vis-a-vis why is a person on Facebook, for example, and a TikTok? So what is the mindset of the consumer when they are actually present and consuming content on these platforms?
I think your question is, it might require an answer to why social media sort of took off, as a whole sort of medium altogether.
I'm actually, let me rephrase that from a brand's perspective. Okay, what are the insights that you have that consumers are doing in a particular platform that would make certain types of communication for certain types of brands relevant?
Sure. I mean, the most obvious ones that you can, that we can sort of talk and address about is Instagram being a visual platform. So if you're in the travel and tourism space, which unfortunately, right now would not be the best time for them, or if you're in a food space, or if you're in a dessert space, or if you're in a fashion space, any category that has something where, visuals are something that they can use to captivate their consumers, you would choose to go on an Instagram as a platform. Facebook is slowly, it has already evolved, and you've already seen a migration of a certain kind of audience from Facebook as a platform onto Instagram. But Facebook itself has evolved as a platform where it's a little bit now more of a multifaceted content consumption platform, where it's not just just not social media interaction. It's from what's happening in your friends' lives, of course, that continues. But a lot of articles that are being posted there, a lot of news and publications that are out there. So it's become an sort of more holistic content consumption platform. So it has a bit of a mixed role to play in a consumer's life. So while a consumer might still be on a Facebook, while they will still also be on an Instagram, they're most definitely following a patisserie brand on Instagram and not definitely on Facebook. So essentially, you look at the strengths of each of the platforms and the roles that they're filling in their consumers' life.
What about LinkedIn? Can consumer brands actually leverage LinkedIn in some way?
So here's what I think. Again, depends on what it is that LinkedIn is leveraged for. I think one of the key roles that LinkedIn can play today is your internal team communication. What is the company doing? What is its plan given the current pandemic? How is it going to be? What are its efforts that's putting for its internal team and the customers? I think for all those kind of communication at this point in time, LinkedIn becomes important. For, I wouldn't say recruitment, because right now a lot of people are not recruiting, but those are the roles.
LinkedIn's sort of purpose has always been businesses and connecting people from a professional standpoint. So at any given point in time, a brand has communication needs. Those are usually bracketed into what they need to do to advertise to the consumers. And the other aspects of communication are more from the business sort of updates that have to go out to either the news media or to internal communications, or steps that the businesses are taking to either keep abreast with the new changes that are happening. So if you're looking at LinkedIn, then I would look at that kind of communication that a business should be putting out there, which is more relevant for the business community at a large than from a communication that goes towards a B2C point of view of, buy my product, or here is a new thing that I've done, or here is a new price promotion that I have.
Something like the chat we are doing now, right?
Sorry?
Something like the chat that we are doing now.
Yeah, I mean, if the information, if the information out there is going to be of some benefit to professionals and businesses out there, then I think that's a more relevant platform to be out there on.
Good points. Having said that, aren't all the professionals on LinkedIn also consumers?
Sure.
So what sort of communication would make sense? I mean, brands can advertise. I know a lot of consumer brands who are advertising on LinkedIn. When would you recommend a consumer brand leverages LinkedIn to actually sell their products, like they would on Instagram and Facebook?
I mean, you'll have to probably give me an example, but from the top of my mind, I can't think of any FMCG
like
brand.
Let's take real estate, for example. We've spoken about FMCG a lot.
Sure.
So real estate.
Sure. I would still, I mean, if you ask me, I would still, my personal advice to a real estate brand would be to not necessarily advertise on LinkedIn. But the same person that is sitting on LinkedIn is sitting on Facebook, is sitting on Instagram. More importantly, is browsing Google. So if your consumer is actually in the space of looking at real estate properties for investments, or to sort of buy to live in, they would be making certain kinds of searches across digital platforms, and there are ways to reach them through those platforms with the same communication versus LinkedIn. Because the mindset, for example, when you're browsing on LinkedIn, or when I'm browsing on LinkedIn, I'm actually out there to look at what certain industry leaders are putting out there. What are the challenges that they're currently facing? How are they overcoming those challenges? That's the kind of information, that's the mindset that I have when I go there. I'm not really looking to be bombarded by ads because that's not what I've come there to do.
Right.
While consumer behavior is to a certain degree now accustomed to be bombarded by ads on either Google or Facebook or whatever, and and that's fine. They expect it, they get it there. But LinkedIn has a very specific role. So, like I said, if you want to use LinkedIn for businesses, I think it has to have a certain specific role that I think ties in with Corpcom in a much stronger way, and used for that to sort of leverage that to build a brand or a company or its ideals and project what it needs to the world outside as a company that they are, either for their employees or for the rest of the world or for the investors. And I think that's the role that platform really plays, and it should be utilized for that. So my personal recommendation to a real estate brand would be to not advertise
and
on
do
LinkedIn.
more of affiliate marketing or contextual marketing, right?
I mean, I understand it's very easy to sell a media plan that says, I will target all the CXOs and
Correct.
so on and so forth. And a lot of the media companies will package that, but it would not be my recommendation. I think there are ways to reach the same niche TG through other platforms digitally, and to not violate that consumer's sort of, space of why they are actually on LinkedIn. I mean, that would be our recommendation.
Very interesting. So now coming back to the major FMCG brands in the country, I don't know, I've read somewhere that still most of the major brands spend majority of their marketing dollars, marketing rupees on television and, followed by print, and only then allocate budgets for social media. So, because, this, when you look at CPM, mass media seems to be much cheaper for them even today. That's
Sure.
what people say. So when do you think this trend will change, and how do you see it pan out in the next few years?
So I could answer that question, but it has actually, I mean, it has a lot of sort of layers to the answer. I mean, let's look at the role of TV. I think I would not debate the fact that TV has an integral role to play in the media mix, especially in our country. Over the years, you've obviously seen digital take a share of the pie, which has predominantly come from print. Very little of that has sort of come from TV. But you have to understand the overall sort of role that TV plays in a brand's sort of perception building and giving it a certain mass sort of coverage. And therefore, it has a certain definite role to play in the media mix. The other part of it would be that for the longest time, I know that TV viewership data has been pretty much riddled with inaccuracies, credibility of data, low sample size, quality of the samples that they have. I mean, for the longest time, it's used an antiquated system of delivering or measuring viewerships, while for most people have sort of lived with the status quo and have gone on with it ever since. I know as recent as 2018, where a lot of the television stations and a lot of the industry groups banded together and have asked TRAI to sort of find ways to improve the existing system, which essentially, unfortunately, is not very representative, accurate, or tamper-proof, right? Now, maybe in the short term, as you might see marketing budgets get trimmed, given the economic impact that we're all going to face one way or the other in the coming months, or maybe even in the following years. And if your budget's going to be scarce and you have to be far more judicious about how you spend your money.
And measurability is important.
Correct. So you might then start, making those decisions as to why digital will be able to provide a far more substantial measurability, whether it's from, the viewership, the number of views you get, the engagements, the click-throughs, to the extent of, tracking it to almost to the end of purchase. So you will probably see that. Now, why do most marketeers still continue to bank on TV despite having such high levels of measurability? Now, while like I said, for certain big brands, you need that air cover, you need that level sort of, carpet bombing the message and the air cover, like I said. And I think that will continue to stay. And that support that TV provides, because there is a huge population of India that is still TV heavy and has not fully gone digital. Of course, that numbers are year on year, of course, increasing. But that's probably still the best way to reach my parents, and perhaps not, digital just yet for a lot of the communication. And that might change as
Probably
time.
WhatsApp changes that, right? Once they
It
start,
has
yeah.
to a degree, but WhatsApp has to still find a way to sort of position itself as a medium that can be banked on reliably to be able to spread, communication, and which they are working on, as we all know. But I think time will tell on how they sort of evolve that medium.
Okay, great. So Khushboo, you were working prior to becoming an entrepreneur.
That's right.
How did you start off? How did Sunny and you meet? And what's been your journey? So now it's more personal.
So I've been in digital. I accidentally actually got into digital about 14, 15 years ago. I worked with 3 agencies for a period of about 7 to 8 years, where I was handling a large portfolio of different brands, and also started some of the key verticals for some of these agencies. During this entire time, I gathered a great deal of learning. And I thought there was a certain value I could add if I was looking and manage these business independently. That's when I decided that we'd start Prodigitz, and Prodigitz came into being about 7 years ago now. And we organically kept growing year on year till I reached a stage where I needed a strategic partner. So 4 years ago, I actually got
You
Sunny
found a
on
strategic
board.
partner in more ways than one.
I got Sunny on board after much pleading.
She just wanted to ensure she can boss me around at home and now at work.
So
I remember Boo was a fantastic sales person even back in B school.
you mean delegation?
Huh?
Do you mean delegation?
Delegation, sales. I mean, you would make people see value in doing your work. Okay, I didn't do it, but I know we had a 15-day overlap between juniors and juniors coming in and us leaving, and you made those poor kids, do your homework. I think on all 15 days. And that was amazing. I thought it was phenomenal. I couldn't do that.
She showed early signs of entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
It runs in
exactly.
my blood, man.
Exactly.
I come from a Marwari family.
I know that for sure makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, but that's what the journey of Prodigitz has been. 4 years ago, Sunny joined us, Sunny and I actually met at a digital agency. The first agency that we worked at.
As well. I joined digital as a space accidentally in 2008. This was incidentally right after the 2008 crash that happened on the subprime. Right around that time is when I started my sort of journey in digital, and she was the one who got me the interview. So that's how we met, and that was 2008. We got married in 2012, and
we just had to memorize all these dates, for this call.
So
I can
He's
see.
not generally so good at it.
But Sunny, you're doing very well, man.
It's been an interesting journey, man. I've learned a lot from her. 4 years ago is when I came into digital. Prior to that, I was on the mainline advertising side of things, and before that, I've spent some years in marketing. So it was sort of pulling all that experience and the knowledge that I had been able to accumulate and plug that in with everything that she'd been able to build with Prodigitz, and hopefully provide the kind of solutions that we are able to now give to our clientele, which is we don't necessarily have to just come at it purely from an advertising and digital point of view. Having the years of experience, we sort of have a holistic understanding of how marketing works and overall communication, and how digital plays a certain role, and therefore it becomes important to work with your other sort of partners in mainline and sometimes even at BTL point of view for a brand to integrate the solution that goes across seamlessly, and it's not just in isolation, what we do in digital.
Yeah, I think what you've done with Prodigitz over the years is fantastic. You guys are one of the top social media and digital marketing companies in India today. I know that because I've been in touch with Boo. So as a couple, would you recommend husbands and wives working together?
I think it's best to ask this question individually. We may have different answers collectively and individually.
And poor Sunny has to say the right things because he's locked down with you now, right? That's
I
how
can
our
say-
conversation started pre-recording.
I can say it's a mixed bag. We definitely, I think it's not easy for all the couples who work together, in any form of businesses will tell you it's not easy. But I think if you are able to find a partner where fundamentally you guys understand each other and approach problems with a rational sort of mindset and not necessarily personal. You can keep your personal life and personal opinions and egos aside, and you can approach business challenges and problems rationally. I think it's a workable partnership because I think you invariably find a partner that no matter what happens will always think in the interest of the business and not necessarily their own, which unfortunately you tend to see in a lot of other businesses and partnerships where individual priorities and needs sort of trump. So in this case, I could say it's been a mixed bag, but it's generally overall been it's been a great experience. It has been rewarding and learning for both of us. At times we were at each other's throats, but that's part and parcel of any business and life. So no complaints on that front.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have a non-negotiable commitment, like marriage, to make sure that the partnership doesn't break up on the business.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think these are great insights, and it's going to be very helpful for people, people who are working, husbands and wives working together. So thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
It's been a real pleasure having you on the BrilTalks episode.
Absolutely. This has been fun as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It was good catching up with you.
Absolutely.